Welcome to another episode of The Financially Free Investor, where you will learn information and strategies on how to become financially independent by investing in real estate, something that is not taught openly in our society today. Financial freedom matters so you can live a bigger life, retire early, and do what matters most to you. Get ready to hear tried and true methods to becoming financially free with your host, Jordy Clark.
The important thing is you just keep moving forward. And as you're on your journey to financial freedom, it's definitely a different path than what we're prescribed in just our normal society and education. That, you go to school and got to get good grades to get into a good college, and you got to get into a good college to get a good degree, to get a good paying job. And I really just don't believe for most people that's true. So it's way more about the action you take today, how you prepare yourself for the person that you want to become that will define your future versus events in your past. Wherever you're at is where you're at. Don't beat yourself up for any past money mistakes. Just kind of look at it and go, okay, well, this is me. This is where I'm at. This chapter in my story, and whatever it is, it's okay. As long as you continue to move forward towards financial freedom, however you may determine to do that, whether that's single family rentals, duplexes, whether you want to flip houses, whether you want to build spec homes, whatever that may be, just know that you can move forward towards financial freedom today. Today is the only action that we can control. We can't control what's happened in the past, and we can't control what happens in the future. We can't control if there's a stock market meltdown tomorrow. What we do is we just take the given set of circumstances we have and do the absolute best possible with them in our journey to financial freedom. And don't let all of those negative things that may have happened in your past slow you down. Just acknowledge them and move forward on your journey to financial freedom.
That's just a little tip there, right? If you're trying to hit a certain value, everyone sees the world a little bit differently. So sometimes it can be very beneficial when you're doing a BRRRR, which again stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. BRRRR is just the acronym. It's helpful to meet with the appraiser, and without telling him, hey, this is how you do your job, you're able to say, hey, look, this is kind of the data I found. I always kind of like to approach it like, hey, I'm not sure if this would be helpful, knowing full well that an appraiser knows how to do their job. It's just a little bit softer approach to trying to hit a value that, can be manipulated. There's a certain saying in real estate, if you have the same house in the same point of time and you have 5 different appraisers go and appraise that house, everything is subjective in real estate. And so, you can get 5 potential different values based off of the life experience of that appraiser. So, what one house they feel may be comparable, another appraiser may disagree.
Take care of your residents. They're essentially a business partner with you. They're agreeing to take care of the house while you own it, and it goes up in value, and hopefully rents go up over, a decade, which I'm fairly confident they will in most areas in the nation. Especially in some high growth markets like here in Utah. We've got large mountain ranges to the east and the west of us, and then we've got these large lakes right along the Wasatch Front, the Great Salt Lake and Utah Lake, and it's just really hard to build houses on a lake or on top of a mountain. So we're going to run out of land at some point in time, whether that's in 5 years or 50 years. It doesn't really matter. The land is just going to get more valuable, kind of like it did in San Francisco. So if you look at things on a long enough time horizon and you buy even one house a year and let the tenants pay it off, and year over year you're making a little bit more money, and then you buy another house, you're making a little bit more money. And if you can be disciplined and take that extra cash flow and pretty soon you can start putting it in one account, and you'll have enough that your rentals will buy you a rental. And that's when it gets really cool, because it starts growing really, really fast. I remember when we bought back into the market, when I thought it was at the peak in 2018, it was just a couple $100 a month that we made on our first rental. Not that big of a deal. And we didn't really touch it. We just kind of let it accrue, and something would go wrong and that extra money would take care of it. So you do that 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, all of a sudden, you start making a little bit more every month, and this account grows a little bit quicker, grows a little bit quicker. And then, all of a sudden you kind of built up enough that you're like, hey, I've funded all of my reserves if that's what you want to do, or I've got enough that we can buy another rental.
I had a lot of fears. Courtney had a lot of fears. And we really didn't want to slip back into the spending more than we made trap, kind of that whole part of the rat race, right? Where it's just you're digging yourself deeper, deeper, deeper in a hole and never really getting out. So, and I can definitely empathize with anyone that's in that position right now, because it's tough. Our society teaches us, hey, you have to consume, right? Like you've got these luxury cars and you've got all these influencers or celebrities or whatever that, they're driving Ferraris and, these $1 million cars, living in these huge mansions. And then everyone tries to live up to that next standard of living that they think they need. So we really didn't want to slip into that and be in the rat race with the Joneses, if you will. So the first thing I did when I was on this path after we got out of debt was I found a mentor. And this particular mentor was local to where I was at. And he had a coaching program. So at the time, I can't even remember what it was now. At the time, it was a big deal. It was probably only a few $1,000s for like a 1-year membership. And it included, certain things. And at the time I was like, holy cow, $3,000, it's a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, I still think that $3,000 is a lot of money. What I didn't realize was I wasn't spending the money to get some recordings, right? I wasn't just blowing this money because, I got a tax return. Like we had saved up. And this was first point in time where I really found out the value of investing in yourself. So I had paid for this mentor coaching program. And it wasn't one-on-one or anything. It was just a group coaching program. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I believe in myself. I think this guy can teach me what I need to know. And so I signed up. And, I talked to Courtney about it before because, again, we were very, very frugal. And that was a lot of money at the time. So any big decision, and still today, we try to make it together. So I make this decision. I invest in myself. And at the time, I didn't know I was investing in myself. I was just like, look, I'm joining this coaching program because he's going to teach me how to do this. And he definitely taught me a lot. It also gave me the confidence to be able to go and start investing.
Hey everyone, just a quick minute. This episode is brought to you by our show sponsor, EVA Solutions. EVA Solutions is a virtual staffing company that provides a hassle-free experience when it comes to finding the right virtual assistant. From sourcing, interviewing, qualifying, onboarding, to monitoring your VA, they have it all covered. They understand that your business is unique, and so are your virtual assistant needs. That's why they offer high-quality virtual assistants that are customized to fit your specific requirements and needs. They have a team of experienced and professional virtual assistants who are experts in a variety of skills in different industries, including customer service, administrative support, data entry, property management, social media management, and the list goes on. If you sign up using the link, you'll get a $200 off for full-time VA service for the first 6 months. So go to show notes, click on the link, and EVA Solutions has your back. If you're looking for a VA, if you're looking for an assistant, they will knock it out of the park for you because they do it for me and my businesses. Now imagine if you took money out of your primary residence and went and bought 1 or 2 or 3 rental properties. The tenants are going to be the ones that pay that property off over 30 years. Rent is going to go up every single year for the most part, even if it's only 3%. If the rent is $1,500 a month, 3% is $45 a month. So every year it's going to go up at least $45 a month, but it's going to compound. So it's going to end up being worth more and more and more and more as the years go on. And your payment's going to be the same. So you're going to cash flow more as time goes on. You're going to have more equity as time goes on. And for me, one thing that's helped me get to where we're at today is we take a look at our properties every single year. And if one has a ton of equity, we'll look at refinancing and pulling cash out, or we'll look at selling it and doing a 1031 tax deferred exchange and purchasing anywhere from 2 to 7 other properties with it. And this is super powerful, guys, because the tenants are paying for that property for you. So the real question is, what's your equity doing for you right now? And for most people, their equity is not doing them anything. And I loved that example in there where if you lose your job, I get that this was written a long time ago. And so, you could say, oh, Jordy, I'll never get a $200,000 house or whatever, but the principle is the same, right? We make more than we did back then on average. The principle is the same, right? Cash in the bank serves as liquidity in the event that something happens. You can pay your mortgage. You can't continue to pay your mortgage with equity unless you already pre-established a home equity line of credit, but you're not usually thinking about that until you need it. And that's when banks won't give it to you. And funny enough, in 2007-8, in the great housing recession, banks would sort in an Excel spreadsheet all of these mortgages, and they would look at equity percentages. So if there was 100 people delinquent, not paying their mortgages, they would sort it by the percentage of equity. And if you had more equity, they were more likely to just continue the foreclosure process, even if you had been paying your mortgage dutifully for 28 years and had 2 years left, but something happened and you stopped paying your mortgage. They would continue the foreclosure process. Versus if you were over leveraged, which I'm definitely not encouraging people to over leverage, it's just an example. But if you were over leveraged, the bank was more likely to come to you and say, okay, let's work something out. Let's do a loan modification. Let's figure something out. Let's, go to a 40-year loan instead of a 30-year loan because we want to make this affordable for you. And they would work out things to keep you in your house or to keep tenants in your house or, whatever the situation was. And the sad thing is the banks are not your friend. They can be a partner, strategic partner, but they are not your friend. And given the chance, if you're delinquent, they will continue the foreclosure process. I've seen it time and time again. I buy houses at foreclosure auctions. And sometimes it's really sad. Sometimes it's totally needed. The point I'm trying to make here is, as you're investing, continue to reevaluate everything you have and see if it's still serving you or see if it could be serving you, that equity serving you in a different manner. Because guys, the system is rigged against us. It is set up to keep you enslaved at your job for 40 years so you can pay your mortgage, pay your car payments, send your kids to college, blah, 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 blah. It is not rigged for freedom. It is not rigged for you to do what you enjoy. Base hits win games. Even though I should have probably kept this, at the time it made sense to sell it because we took our equity out and we went and built a house that we lived in and that we had to learn some stuff on just personally and in our relationship with my wife. But at the end of the day, it kept us in the game. It got us in the game. Had I never done that first deal and learned these lessons, in the future, when we really started accumulating properties, I probably would have tried to self-manage everything instead of just handing it over to a property manager. And, I would have just continued to buy weird houses, but ever since that first one, I literally made every mistake in the book. We buy a lot better now. So, and I'm sure in 10 years, I'm going to be saying, something very similar, that should have held on to everything that we sold. But at the end of the day, it's a means to an end. And as long as you're continually in the game, that's what's important. The important thing is that you continue to plug into podcasts like this, that you continue to read books, you continue to go to Real Estate Investor Association meetups and be doing all of these things because education is so important. The dangerous thing to that is we can jump in and get analysis paralysis where we know too much. We're not taking action. There comes a certain point in time where, you can say that you want to be financially free or you want to have, 20 rental properties or 100 rental properties or 10,000. And the reality is you got to make sure that your audio is matching your visual, that your goals are matched by your actions, or that your actions match your goals. And that doesn't mean it needs to be perfect, but you need to be progressing towards what your goals are. And you should have goals in every area of your life, because if we're not growing, we're dying. And, we get complacent and we get stuck in our habits. And sometimes, we need to just break out of our habits, even if that means you're unsuccessful in whatever you were doing.
We have a housing shortage. Since 2008, so many builders went out of business. Everyone knows what happened in the past. Today's market is completely different. And while I don't think we're going to see, prices decline by 30, 40, 50% like we did in 2008, I do think there's going to be some opportunity in the next year or two as, we see people, as we're hitting hard times, all the froth has come off the top of the market. And we're going to start seeing truly skilled real estate professionals excel. And I am super excited because all of this information that I've accumulated for the past 9 years, I feel like has led me to this point where we are ready to go and we're going to buy good deals and we're going to operate good deals. We're going to come out of this way better off than I probably would ever imagine. But you can do the same thing by continuing to listen to stuff like this, by improving yourself. I had a buddy text me the other day and he's like, hey, should I throw $100 in this cryptocurrency? And I was like, no, you shouldn't. And he's like, well, but if it goes to this, then, I'll make $124,000. And I was like, dude, you'd be better off paying $120 to go learn how to flip homes by taking a course and learning how to buy rental properties, because that is the true investing where you're adding value.
Don't invest emotionally. That's tip number one. When emotions are high, intelligence is low. The cash in the bank, 3 to 6 months, depending on if you're self-employed or how long you've been employed or what other investments you have. It's different for everyone. But above and beyond that, I would say if you find a really good deal, just keep stashing cash, set it aside. And then when you find a really good deal, don't be afraid to pull the trigger because buyers are being rewarded right now. The important thing to think about is your local economy, right? If you buy a short-term rental, here are the risks. The risks are we will continue to see people jump on the bandwagon of short-term rentals because everyone is trying to get rich quick. The second thing is interest rates have gone through the roof, not only on short-term rentals, vacation homes, but on everything, especially though on second homes and vacation homes, because Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, I think they see this craze that's happening and they're jacking the interest rates up there because there's more risk that borrowers are going to default. There's more risk that people aren't going to pay that. The great thing about having long-term rentals is someone is going to work every single day, 5 days a week to pay the rent to live there. That's a needed and necessary expense in someone's life. Everyone should be padding their cash reserves and their business operating accounts by an extra 50% as quick as possible. They also talked a lot about taking inventory of where you can chop overhead in your personal life and your business now, so you don't have to act based on emotion in the future. Selling underperforming assets or properties to prune the portfolio. They talked about that. They talked about a blog called Calculated Risk, just for extremely up-to-date data. So I subscribed to that. And, it was really interesting being on this phone call from somebody that's, worth probably close to 200 million at this point, giving us advice. And granted, he's at a different place in his life than a lot of us on the call were, yet he's throwing the rope down and helping us just get prepared, right? And something he said was, if you prepare for the worst and it doesn't happen, you're golden, right? Meaning you'll just have extra cash. You will have leaned out your expenses a little bit. Could be a bunch of different stuff. But if you don't prepare for the worst and the worst happens, then you're done for. The real question I want you to ask yourself is, how could you improve your standard of living without increasing your monthly expenditures? And sit with that for a little while, because ideas will come to you. You might get more creative on doing things. And I'll do another episode on some other ideas that don't involve real estate, of how you could increase your lifestyle without increasing your expenses. And it's really not that hard, but it just takes sitting with that. And sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it just takes space, just creating the space to sit and go, I want a new house, but I don't want a bigger payment. How could I get a bigger house without having a bigger payment? And sitting with that for a little while sometimes will give you an answer that you weren't expecting, or reaffirm an answer that you had thought about, or just being able to find more creative ways. Because at the end of the day, we all want more time freedom. We all want more financial freedom. We all want a better lifestyle. And so, those are the three things that everyone's kind of going after. But most of the time, the standard dogma is, well, I just need to work more hours. Well, I just need to get a higher paying job. Well, I just need to lower my expenses. And yeah, sure, all of those are great strategies, but I think there's different strategies out there if you just kind of sit with it and ask yourself, how could I do this?
And that could be anything in life.
Who you surround yourself is who you become. And that can apply to any area of our life. And a lot of times we put ourselves in places of comfort because, for one reason or another, we don't want to be uncomfortable. We take warm showers because they're comfortable versus cold showers, even though there's actually health benefits to immersing yourself in cold water. Just like there's health benefits to immersing yourself in really hot environments like a sauna for short periods of time. The only reason I bring that up is because it's easy, I think, for our minds to equate temperatures physically, right? But what about the temperature of, if you were to get, we'll say your 5 closest friends or, couples together if you're married. If you get those 5 couples together and you have a dinner conversation, right? You all go out together, you get one big table and you guys start having a conversation. And I'm asking you this directly or indirectly or however it comes across on this podcast, but are those conversations lifting you up, or are they keeping you where you're at? Or even worse than keeping you where you're at is, are they dragging you down? Do you get excited if you were to think about getting together with this group of 5 other couples, or we'll even call it like 10 colleagues, right? You get together in sort of a more intimate group. Are you being brought up? Are you feeling like, man, I could really stretch myself. I could go out and buy that new car. I could go out and buy a bigger house. I could go out and, do something bigger than what I'm currently doing. Or are you like, hey, I'm good with what we're doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting more or wanting to stay where you're at, but there's different phases and different seasons of life. And it's important to kind of take note of where you're at, because you may be in a season of growth when your friends, maybe they're not in that season of growth, and that's okay. Yet maybe you just need to realize, hey, I need to get around something a little different, something to stimulate my mind, something to have different conversations than we've had before. You've got to be clear on where you're going. Progress and direction are not the same thing. Okay. You can be progressing, but you can be going in the wrong direction, and it's just not what you want. I'm going to throw this out there because I know there's some leaders that listen to the podcast. He put, a lot of this was training you how to be a better leader, which I'm a terrible leader. So that's part of the reason I went. 4 questions to ask yourself about becoming a better leader. So what do they need to know? They, meaning your team. Why do they need to know it? What do they need to do? And why do they need to do it? And if you don't know the answer to those 4 questions, you better figure it out, because how can you convey where the ship is going to your team if you don't even know? Okay. And get ready, prepare your ship for rough seas ahead. Unemployment rate, just to go back to that, we're currently sitting about 3%, and the Fed's target is 6.6%. We've already seen it a lot with real estate. Real estate's the first one in this recession due to mortgages. Mortgage companies have let go a ton of staff, very talented people, but there's no refi business. So they're down 60, 70%. It's a tough business to be in. So get ready. Your business might have to lay people off. The business you work for might be laying people off. Get ready, get your house in order, have some emergency funds set aside. I personally like some food storage, some water storage, because, natural disasters, you lose your job, who knows? And just having that makes your money go further because you don't have to buy groceries. So just get ready.
So we probably have to analyze 100 different deals to find the one that is a positive cash flow, and then you have to jump on it. But I will say, everything we buy cash flows. I don't buy anything that is a negative cash flow. So that just means I've looked at 3,500 deals to find my 35 that do, or 350, whatever the math is. So just look at more deals, and then, look at other ways of taking it down versus putting down 25%. Because I think what we're going to see a lot of in the next 12 to 18 months is we're going to see a lot of people who have very low interest rates, who have equity, but as we continue to see prices either correct or keep going down or stabilize or whatever they do, people are going to have life happen to them where they need to move, and there might be an opportunity for you to take over their payments at 2% interest versus 6% interest. You might just have to come up with, some more money and then figure it out a different way. And just keep in mind that cash flow pays the bills, but appreciation is what's going to make you very wealthy. Knowing what I know now, the one thing I would do is invest in myself, either by getting in bigger rooms, by joining masterminds, by getting around people who are doing more. A lot of the times we associate money and we're like, oh, well, I don't make $100,000 a month, so I can't join that mastermind, or I don't make $10,000 a month, so I can't, whatever. But if you add value and you show up in those rooms, I guarantee you that everyone will, you have something else to add that they don't have, because the money becomes less and less important as you get more of it. So I would invest in myself by joining masterminds, by doing other things, by coming to more of this stuff. So for us, what we did is we started buying single family homes with regular 30-year mortgages. And as they appreciated and as the rents went up, and we had more equity, what we've started doing is we've sold those and we've rolled up into commercial multifamily. So we went from a townhouse that we owned that had a fair amount of equity in it, and we sold that and we bought a sixplex. So it's commercial financing. There's unlimited number of loans you can get there. Because it just made more sense to do that than go like a debt coverage loan at 9% or whatever. I was just, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So if you have less than 3 properties, I would say the best thing for you to do is there's 2 credit unions, Mountain America and Cypress. They'll both do a 10% down investor loan with no mortgage insurance, and the rates are better than Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
That's awesome.
You have too many. Good for you. Sell those and go buy multifamily. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
I would wrap that actually. I would just get a big heat lock. I would do a massive portfolio and. Huh? So I have 3 of them. Heat locks? But every single one of them needs it. That's how you double down, man. Just keep going. That's what I would do.
So if you contact CoreVest, and Paul Winterout is the broker that introduced me.
Wait, say that again.
CoreVest. They do non-traditional loans. You can. So I got a $3 million line of credit with them.
And what's your dude's name? What?
Paul Winterout. He introduced me to that bank.
I probably okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I butcher it too. It's a portfolio loan, so I can go and refinance as many properties into that line of credit or buy them into that line of credit.
And that's what it is.
And then they'll refinance it into long-term debt. But they have probably the product you're looking for, so you keep the asset, but then you free up the Fannie Freddie spots so that you can buy more properties with those awesome loans. I am an extremely introverted person. My wife is not. She's the social butterfly. She'll go out and talk to everyone. I'm like, hey, let me just look at real estate deals in the corner and not talk to anyone. But you have to know yourself, right? So you can do personality assessments. You can figure out where your strengths are because you do have them. They're just different than what you're perceiving other people's strengths to be, right? I would also say stay off of social media, because a lot of times we compare ourselves to other people that we think so much, and the reality is it's just a highlight reel. And then the fourth thing is, I would say go attend a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within, something, because you've got skills and God put you on this earth for a reason, and you need to figure out what that is, and you're the only one that can figure that out. So when you go and do that, that's a really cool thing. So.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Financially Free Investor. If you found value in this episode or know someone who would find value in this information, please share with them, subscribe, and send us a review.